are the world's finest. It is I, Alfie, and with me today we have my good friend Dereck. Say hi to everyone, Dereck.
Hello, everyone.
Once again, I'd like to thank our good friend George Shaw letting us use his amazing intro music. His links will be in the description, and everywhere else I decide to put this. Don't question me. Dereck, what are we going to be talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about Rocksteady's Superman game, and we're going to give our pitches for it.
Now, Superman game obviously is going to raise some eyebrows. Just the mention of the word seems to either pen people screaming for more or running to the hills. The Man of Steel has happened to have a very shaky history with video games at best, especially compared to Batman and his recent forays with the pre-mentioned Rocksteady. So basically what we're going with is our ideas on how we'd like Rocksteady to do it, what they think they will do, and also giving some of our own ideas. If we had to make our perfect Superman game as fans, what would we do? So I guess to start off, Dereck, past Superman games, failings, ups and downs, where do you stand on them?
Well, I had never played Superman 64, the infamous game everyone talks about when they talk about Superman games. I have played Superman Returns back in, the PS2 days, and I have to say, for what it was, I really enjoyed it. As Superman fans, it was just great to be able to fly around as Superman and shoot laser beams and take out building fires with your super breath. That was great. I was young when I played it, so I actually didn't get very far. It was really hard for me. I quit around the time where you had to fight this giant gladiator guy on Warworld. I could not get past that mission for the life of me. I ended up rage quitting and never playing it again.
Isn't that right at the start?
It is. It's like after you beat the initial missions where the meteors come down, you're transported to Warworld, which I guess takes place a few years before Superman Returns.
Yeah.
And I could not pass the mission.
Oh boy, that's bringing back memories. I guess I'm similar. I've played Superman 64 on an emulator, so even the actual game is bad enough, but trying to play it on a very slow PC that keeps crashing is just I experienced hell. Let's put it that way. But Superman Returns, I've also got the same thing as a Wii one. Go playing on the PlayStation 2. I managed to get a little bit further than the first two missions. But yeah, I think it is they definitely got the movement down in that game. You felt fast as Superman, like you could go across the whole place. And like he said, there was different options between. You weren't just a brawler. You could like use your heat vision and super breath to solve puzzles. Like you could put out fires and stuff. So they definitely had elements of Superman, but at the same time, the controls. Granted, I haven't played this in quite a while as well, so we may not be the greatest people on this to judge it. But just simply from what I can remember, and from what a lot of people have gone through, it's not the kind of stand that we feel Big Blue, the number one superhero, deserves. So I guess I'll just pose this question to you. What elements do you think they nailed in Superman Returns specifically? I think we'll just focus. Do you think that was a major misstep?
Well, from what I can remember, the superpowers were just plain fun to use and very simple to use as well. Something that concerns me with Rocksteady's interpretation is when you play Batman and you try and use all his gadgets, the system that they use feels slow. You have to hold down the down pad on the little arrow key, and you have to sort through all your gadgets and pick which one you want. And sometimes it feels a little bit clunky. Sometimes you accidentally choose a different one than the one you need. And I feel like right now in 2017, as game developers, they should be able to optimize that. That should be quicker.
Well, I guess you could also argue they have the quickfire gadgets, which go a bit faster. But like you said, it's not as efficient when you're like in the open world, switching between gadgets.
Right.
Yeah, I get your point there.
And Superman needs an open world game. If we were to have small, linear story, some Rocksteady, I don't think would be good for that. Something I would love to see would be Telltale. Telltale making a Superman game.
Oh, interesting.
Focusing on Clark Kent a little heavy, his journalistic side, and then switching to Superman every now and then. I think that would be amazing. But if we're really truly getting a Superman game, if we're really using his power set, if we're fighting Doomsday and Brainiac and Lex Luthor, the world needs to be open. We need to be able to feel like Superman. And I think Superman Returns really did a good job at that. The scope of the game was amazing. I remember as a little kid ignoring the first mission where you had to save Metropolis from the meteors and just flying and running around so I could feel like I was in Metropolis.
I guess that's also a benefit of some of the best Spider-Man games, is when you can just play them with the character's unique movement for just hours without doing any missions. Like, I remember Spider-Man 2 is a similar thing, as I would just swing for ages because it felt so gratifying to swing. And Superman Returns has that, where although the main gameplay, like segments, aren't the best in the world, the actual movement feels so good you could just do it, because there's an ingrained with the character sense of fun as Superman, no matter what you're doing with it. Like, even Superman 64, the act of flight is always going to be fun. It's just about perfecting that. Yeah. So, I guess if we're gonna, you mentioned it earlier, if we're gonna go to Rocksteady, how do you think? I believe we've had this rumor going on for what feels like years now. Is that after every Batman game, there's always the little bit of rumor mill where Rocksteady's new game is going to be a Superman. And at first it's like, oh yes, they've seen the perfect idea. But as the years have gone on, it feels like a cruel joke that's being played on us. It's like, oh, don't worry, Superman fans, your Rocksteady game's coming soon, and it never comes. So as much as I am excited about this rumor, because of course I'd love to have a Superman game, especially by a developer as skilled as them, who take their time with the material, who like the amount of references and like comic book knowledge that they've gone into it. You can see in like the behind the scenes stuff. I think on YouTube there's a cool little like 10-minute documentary about the making of Arkham Asylum and how they've got like pages of the Arkham Asylum graphic novel. And if they did something like that with Superman, like they got All-Star, that'd be amazing. So they're obviously a really keen developer who have in interviews said, yes, we are interested with Superman. But at the same time, how do you feel they would approach it? Specifically, how do you picture in your mind if you could use your amazing powers to see into a multiverse where this has actually happened already? What would a Rocksteady Superman game look like?
Very similar to the Arkham series. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it really fits Superman as well, but definitely similar to the Arkham series. Rounded storyline. We really get to see our characters, our Superman, oh my gosh, taken apart. A very story-heavy game.
Yeah, I think narrative, especially what you're saying with Telltale, it's important for a character as powerful as Superman that you have a good story to go along with it.
Right.
Because I guess that's also something we should just talk about, the elephant in the room. How do you feel about the Superman's too powerful for a video game?
It's not true.
Oh, okay. Because
he could, if a thug got a lucky shot in or a lucky strike in, Batman could die. But no thug is gonna go against Superman and come out victorious.
Well, I don't know.
You can't have you can't have Superman go against general thugs and really basic villains and get hurt. That's something else that Superman Returns did really good. You couldn't really die. Metropolis could be destroyed and you could fail your mission, or the gladiators, the people, the spectators, could decide that you weren't a good fighter and you could fail the mission, but you didn't die.
Yeah, so it's like they give him his invulnerability because they give it mission-based objectives. But at the same time, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? Because at the end of the day,
It does.
you've still got a health bar as your Superman. So I mean,
Right.
it's like it kind of even just gets to the point when I remember seeing in Superman Returns, like after the Metropolis is destroyed, he kind of just like puts his head in his hands, and I'm like, oh, so it's reached a certain, that's just you giving up now. Okay, that's it. The rest of the city's fine, but now that it's reached that level, you've just decided, oh, you know what, this is over. So I think
Right.
that approach is a good in concept, but personally, I kind of see it as the same line as when you see writers say you can't write a good Superman story because he's too powerful. At that point, I think the fault isn't the character, it's you, because your job is to make a story around that. You shouldn't be trying to change the character to fit you and what you think is easy, because honestly, like, this isn't a dig at the character. This is the world's finest. We appreciate Batman and Superman equally here. But Batman is a much easier character to write because his world kind of writes itself. Like, if you can't write Batman, you can still write a good Gordon or a good Alfred or a good, like, Rogue Gallery. Like, his worlds become over time this living, breathing thing that he can just, like, adapt to. Whereas Superman, because he's had so many different changes and so many different interpretations, it's hard to get to that point. So I think the good thing with Rocksteady might be they'd be willing to give it their own take. Like, we get a whole new canon just for the video game, like the new Insomniac Spider-Man game. Like, just saying it's entirely new canon, and then they can kind of tweak how powerful he is, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like it's like, how do I word this? It's like, okay, so you've seen, I don't know if you have you seen those like GTA mods with Superman?
Yes.
Okay, so like a problem with a lot of them is you're putting Superman in a game where you're meant to be hurt, and Superman is just turning that hurt off. So that's what makes it, so that's what people think, oh, it gets boring after a while because the game's not based around this. So I think maybe Rocksteady would be like, they'd put Superman in an Arkham game, and while it'd be fun for a couple, like an hour or so, eventually the novelty would wear off because you're like, okay, I'm not being challenged.
Right.
So what my solution to this would be is have him be invulnerable. Superman, like, except for like boss fights against Doomsday or Zod or Lex or whatever, he just can't be hurt. You can one shot like regular crooks. Like in this Batman games, you can beat up as many like 50 mooks at once. But then the moment like a tall guy comes in and you punch him, it doesn't work. It's like, wait a minute, surely Batman should still be able to knock this guy out. I don't want any of that. I want Superman, if he goes against a regular crook, he should be able to take them out like almost instantly, like one punch. Like the majority, 99% of things should not be a threat to you. Because the main thing isn't about the quality of the threats, it's the quantity. So what I'd make it is it would be a multitasking game where you have to solve multiple things all at once. So like Superman Returns, when you mentioned putting out a fire with your frost breath, you'd have to do that at one side of the city, while at the other side of the city there's like a bank robbery. And at the other side of the city there's a car crash. So you have to like decide, okay, I can solve all of these, but which one do I solve first?
Ah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So, because that like Batman as a character, he always has this kind of element of, there's a great line in Batman the Animated Series where he's like, one day I'll always go down. And that's in the Arkham games, like we were saying, where if a random thug gets a lucky hit, he can kill Batman. Superman when he goes out, he isn't worried about dying, really.
Right.
Like maybe Brainiac Invasion, that gives him a bit of thing. But the reason why he's so able to forgive people is because for the majority he can't be hurt. That's why like you get he's normally relaxed on like the All-Star cover. He's the most relaxed guy in the world. So what the main thing is not asking, oh, I don't know if I can beat this. It should be, I can beat this, but what order I do it, and if someone dies because I didn't do this first, that's on me. And that's how you fail missions, is if you don't do things quick and efficiently enough.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my thoughts.
I think that could work.
Yeah. What do you think? If you had, I guess this is kind of moved on to the nice little natural segue by your folks at World's Finest. We've moved on to the pitch section. So, how would you pitch your Superman game?
Okay. Well, um, I think again, Superman the power level is probably the hardest thing for a developer to get right. Balancing his powers with the story and the gameplay. So, and Kryptonite is so played out.
Yeah.
But for Superman's first good game, hopefully good game, we could be early into Superman's career, where he doesn't really know about Kryptonite, and the general populace doesn't really know about Kryptonite. But Lex Luthor has been studying it. He has his few hunches, and he tests it out. Lex Luthor starts, dealing in the black market, Kryptonite weapons, Kryptonian weapons, weapons that he's acquired from past invasions, Brainiac, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And he sells them.
Like Kryptonite flea market.
The gooks, right. And the gooks and, the criminals, they buy them and provide Superman with an actual challenge.
As well, I guess you could say, if he's early days, what I would do if I had to do a Superman game and you'd like the power level problem is I would set it in the t-shirt days where he's just jumping around and just basically do the Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Just kind of do that, but with Superman. Mm-hmm. I mean, like in the you can jump really far, you're faster, you're nicer, so it's not about destroying things, it's about stopping things. And then you can just go with the Lex Luthor thing where he's supplementing Kryptonite into the regular. Not maybe maybe have it like there's random crimes where if you're just stopping someone from being mugged, the guy's not going to have a Kryptonite gun. Like you can just
not gonna have it.
But maybe in the story crucial missions where like there has to be a bit of sense of danger, like a LexCorp CIA group or something. I don't know. Or like an Argus, you can throw Amanda Waller and then get some guest stars from the Suicide Squad. Like a Deadshot mission where you're Superman and you have to stop him assassinating people, but he's got kryptonite bullets so he can kill you. That could be a good idea, because then that kind of brings in the whole faster than a speeding bullet into gameplay.
Oh, that would be.
I mean, okay, if we're gonna, let's just get really hardcore into this right now. Okay, so. If you had to make the first Superman game in a whole new canon, who's your main villain? Who's your big bad?
Main villain has to be Lex Luthor.
Does it has to be?
To me, that's Superman's Joker.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum started with the Joker.
Yeah,
and
you've got a point.
Really attribute their popularity nowadays to those games, and definitely to the Dark Knight. But the games definitely had something to do with it. Yeah. And if we can make Superman and Lex Luthor that popular again, then I'd say do it.
Get the
for a completely new origin. Oh, go ahead.
I was just say get the animated series voice actors in as well,
definitely
Arkham did
and whoever did
Clancy Brown, I think. Yeah, Clancy Brown.
Right.
He's my definitive Lex in my head. He's who I read when I see it. But like you were saying about the kryptonite. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, go ahead.
I guess what you can go with is we have Lex as the main bad guy for the first game. You kind of need a plot where it justifies loads of different villains at once. Like you want your Metallos, you want your Parasites, you want Lobo would be fun because. Lobo could be something.
Lobo would be a fun side mission.
Yeah, Lobo could be something as well. Like maybe you do what they did in Superman Returns, where you could play as Bizarro. Like you could play as Lobo. Yeah, it was so good because a big gripe people have with Superman games. It's just kind of the same thing with Arkham Knight, how you can drive people over the Batmobile. Is the moment you give the player control, that character is acting out of character because people will try to heat vision civilians. They will.
I did that. As a 10-year-old, I'd heat vision civilians all the time, and I grabbed the cars and I threw them at each other. I even grabbed the Daily Planet globe and I would destroy cars with it.
Man,
because I could.
I'd do that now. I don't know what to do. That sounds awesome. It's a video game. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I guess like I was saying with the Bizarro thing, is there's like I think it's near the Daily Planet or something. There's like a building you go to, and then Mixie Spitlick will appear, and he'll be like, "Oh, I'll do," and then you turn into Bizarro, and then you're allowed to kill civilians and destroy buildings.
I do.
Look. Okay. That's what magic sounds like. Didn't you hear? Like, of course. For you listening at home, we are actually fifth dimensional imps. That's what this whole podcast is. We're all just various versions of Batmite.
That's exactly how magic sounds.
Basically, yeah. Ask Grant Morrison, he'll tell you. But yeah, you could go be as Bizarro and you could like throw cars at people. And I'd like a moment, because as much as you're playing as Superman, in a video game you do want like the kind of freedom to do what you want. And apart from, you don't want Superman to be killing people though. So it'd be good to have like either it be an alternative skin, like for sure we're gonna have to add multiple costumes.
Oh, definitely. I sit down by myself sometimes and I just think of all the costumes I would put in an Injustice or Superman game.
Because I need the trunks. You don't understand. I need the trunks back. I need classic Superman back. I'd even settle for 90s.
I'm gonna play as classic Superman.
Yeah, because that's the whole. If like, even Arkham Asylum gave Batman the trunks, like because they
made him look cool.
Yeah, it works. I'm just telling you. But before I get onto this tangent that deserves its own episode, I think you're the same. It goes in hand with your point about Lex, in that for making something definitive, you need to cover these essential Superman elements. So you need to have a Lex. You need to have the costume. Like they can do their own spin on it to make it unique. But I think unlike Spider-Man, where Insomniacs did like a really cool, different design, I think for the main Superman game to make it because he hasn't had such successful recognition outside of his own, like in other media, Superman's had kind of a rough time lately. Like the movies haven't been received well critically in like decades. He's not had like the TV shows have been like meandering to people. Like Supergirl isn't even about him, and it's the most popular thing in this universe that's in recent memory. So I do think a video game needs to kind of define Superman in order to really get across to the general public, rather than trying like a new unique take. Like I'm all for different inspirations, like they can do different stuff with Metallo and stuff, but for Clark himself I do think they need to go pure source material, and then maybe in sequels dabble a bit. Because I mean Injustice, for God's sake, they just said, "Oh, you know what? No, we don't need classic Superman." Yeah.
Fuck everything that makes Superman Superman. We're gonna do our own thing, and he's gonna be the Darth Vader and dark side of this DC world.
Oh, sadness. That the game would have to fight against that perception.
Right.
Whereas Batman, he kind of had that too. Like Batman also, not too long ago, he wasn't the same extent as Superman. But before Arkham Asylum, people were kind of like, yeah, Spider-Man's the only superhero with good superhero games. Like Batman hasn't got any really standout ones, and Superman, well, that speaks for itself. And maybe the X-Men, you could say. Like Marvel was doing much better for video games back in the day, which is funny to see. Funny to see now how until recently, it's been kind of like a dead zone for Marvel game-wise. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's also timely. Like, it's the 80th anniversary. And
oh, yeah.
We haven't had, the biggest thing so far has been the Oz Effect. Justice League's coming out, but because of the nature of the story, we know he's coming back, but they don't want to spoil it.
Superman isn't featured in any.
Yeah, which I get.
Unless you're a fan of the movies, you don't see Superman being marketed.
Yeah, which I get, but at the same time, it's like, it feels kind of sucky that he's not on all these cool posters.
It hurts.
Like, he'd be so... Like, you see all the fan edits of people putting Superman in. People want to see him!
Yeah, but at the same time, we don't.
Yeah, but...
Just ruin his great,
the moment... If the moment lives up to it, I'm gonna... You're hearing it now. This is recording, so I can't go back on this. If it happens, if the moment in there like is the tier John Williams theme, I'm just like having a religious experience when he comes back, then we'll be fine. But until we get that, I'm gonna be quite salty that all the Superman merchandise and material hasn't come out yet. So for again, it's timely to release a Superman game. Not this year, obviously, but announce it at least. Which that gives the rumor this year more credence than I think for the previous years, because Rocksteady hasn't been Arkham Knight's been finished for a while. They've had no one's really know what Rocksteady's been up to, and it's the
a lot of rumors. But
they
haven't said anything.
It's the 80th anniversary. A Superman announcement would kind of be, and also with Marvel releasing all their stuff, it'd be good DC competitive wise to say, but look what we've got. But I also get a Superman game out with all the definitive elements. It will really help bring him back into the positive light of pop culture. I guess what we'll also run down then is, what do you think? Like, we've got Superman, Lex, the main costume, all his powers. Like, you don't want to skimp on anything. You want people to feel like Superman. What else do you think is essential?
His supporting cast, of course. Lois, Jimmy, Perry, Martha. I would love to see a few scenes with his mother on Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even in the very beginning of the game, you start playing as Superman as a teenager.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Out his powers.
That would be the good tutorial mission, yeah. That could be the tutorial, yeah.
Jonathan with the tractor, and you lift it into the air. That would be amazing.
Or you have to race Crypto or something. Like, you have to walk.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be so good. But yeah,
Speaking of Crypto.
Oh.
Would that be a nice addition to the character? Maybe you get a little, you're able to play as Crypto during certain parts of the game in free mode.
I think that'd be a good option for co-op.
Oh, yeah. Batman had his co-op with Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily get Kara, Keenan, Connor, even if you want to go...
Well, I mean, you don't want to blow your load at the same time.
Yeah, but at the same time, we've been blue-balled for so long. Our load needs to be blown.
Different, in Superman 2, I would love to see Connor, and I would love to see Supergirl. Superman 3, I want to see his son, John. I want to see Power Girl, and I want to see Keenan. And I think really it's important to bring Keenan into different media.
Yeah.
And Steel as well. Steel and Keenan, it's really important to bring them into light. They haven't really had opportunities in different forms of media other than comic books. I don't really remember Steel and anything, but I think Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah. You hear John Henry Irons mentioned in things, but he's never really a big appearance.
Right.
Which again is sad, because Superman's supposed to be an inspiration for everyone. And although he's the almost immigrant, he's always portrayed as the white guy, which
the white guy.
Yeah.
The white guy.
So I mean, I feel like
his supporting cast too.
Mm-hmm.
Lois white, Perry white, Jimmy white.
Wow, Jimmy.
White. I guess we could say Jimmy has some Irish heritage.
No, I was talking about Supergirl.
Oh well.
when Jimmy's.
I agree. I actually started liking this Tyler Hoechlin. Hoshin? How do you say his name?
I think that's it. Hochin, something like that. Forgive this pronunciation. Yeah, it's not our fault they have those bad names.
Yeah, right. It's not our fault. I actually I used to say that the guy that plays Jimmy looks more like Superman than Tyler.
Well, because he's got the taller physique, isn't he?
Yeah, he's so tall and muscular.
Well, I like what he does in Supergirl. He gives it like he feels like it's like a thing I have to feel about, which they could put into the game as well, as have Jimmy be like helpful in the story mode. He needs to feel like Superman's pal.
Right.
He needs to feel like someone who's the world's strongest man would be like, yeah, I go out for beers with this guy every like weekend or something. It's cool to hang around with, like rather than like the Boy Scout club reporter. Like just it's like a very weird relationship when Jimmy just looks up to Superman and doesn't really help, because then it's like it's even less than like a Robin or a sidekick, because Jimmy doesn't get even involved.
At least Robin can hold his own.
Yeah, and Robin can have his own adventures, whereas Jimmy's always, because he's got less star power, he can't really branch out. And I think a game might be a good place to do that, because maybe you could even have like a mini game where you have to take photos of all like maybe that could be the share feature, is when you press share it goes in like to Jimmy's view and then you can look around and take photos.
That's nice.
Like that would just be little touches like that. How would you work Lois in? Because she's just as important as Superman or Lex.
We probably first introduce to Lois in a mission. Lois is getting into her usual activities. She's in trouble. Superman comes and helps, and he finds out it's Lois. Lois, he knows her. He's probably already worked at the Daily Planet now. And she starts working with Superman, because she refuses to quit. She refuses to be a damsel in distress and just stay back and let the guys do their thing,
Mm-hmm.
So she becomes an investigator of sorts for Superman.
Oh, so she's the one giving him like tips and hints.
She is Superman's oracle.
Oh, that'd be good. Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Like she did.
And by Superman 2, they're already married, and she's calling him Clark instead of
Superman. Like maybe that could be the climax of the game, is she finds out in like the final fight or something.
I definitely, if we get like a Superman 2, I want Superman to die at the end. I want him to fight Doomsday, and I want you to lose the mission. There's just no way you could win. And he just pummels you, and then we could get a Reign of the Superman storyline in Superman 3, where there's a bunch of clones running around other than the main.
I guess by that point, because by the time we get 3, like if we do the Arkham Knight like schedule, we'd have been at this for years. Like by 3, with the technology, I guess they could kind of just say, you know what, here's multiplayer, and you get to play as every single one of the Superman.
Oh, that would be great.
And I can have an online, like, where you get to, like, explore Metropolis, or, like, have, like, a team where you're, like, Zod, Doomsday, Lobo versus Supergirl, Keenan, Connor.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Arkham Origins had multiplayer.
Yeah, I actually like the Arkham Origins multiplayer. It gets a lot of flack, but, like, Arkham Origins always gets a lot of flack for some reason. Like, I thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm. I really think it just gets flack just because it's not Rocksteady.
Yeah, it's like the brand loyalty thing, which I don't understand. It's like their company,
right.
their companies, they'll live.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a fun game. I wanted to play it. I didn't buy it, but I wanted to. It looked like a perfectly fun game.
Yeah, I
It
played
had a lot
it.
of quick features, which I think annoyed a lot of people because they weren't used to that in the Batman games. But I don't think it made it a bad game.
I guess that would be the situation we'd have to go into, is like, if this went into a franchise, what would you do, like, for spin-offs or like Arkham Origins? Like, because if you're in your pitch, you're setting, I guess my own as well, because I wanted the t-shirt guy to like evolve. If we're setting this right at the beginning, we kind of have to establish the entire history. Where with Arkham Asylum, it was implied that this Batman's been around for a decade, so you can pull every single villain without doing their origins.
Right.
I guess that's a problem we'd have to face, is we'd have to explain, is this the first time he's fought Metallo? Is this the first time he's fought Parasite, etc., etc., etc.?
I definitely want to see the first times, because with Batman, you can get away with it. More people nowadays know the gist of Batman villains. They know Joker's the crazy guy. He's insane. He's Batman's arch nemesis. And Two-Face, his face is burned. He's like a gang leader. They know that. But you show them Parasite, and you have a scene where Superman calls Parasite. The general audience, the general players, they're gonna ask, who the hell is Parasite? Who the hell is Metallo?
Or even just they'll know who they are superficially, whereas they won't be like, oh, cool, Parasite. They'll be like, oh, I've heard of him.
Exactly. So I definitely want to see go from point A to point Z, and I want to see the birth of Parasite. I want to see the birth of Metallo, and I don't know, Mr. Mix. I can't say his name.
It's just because I had to have loads of practice because I got really curious about like I love the animated series episode with Mixie Spitlick, and like he actually he tells Clark, this is how you spell it, and he gives like animal visuals about which sound sounds like what. So it's really cute and funny. So that's how I always remember it. I probably someone in the comments is just going to be like, you're spelling it wrong. It's like this, and I'm just going to be crying because I can't handle my credibility being damaged. I guess one essential element which we've kind of glossed over, which I think has a lot of potential, is Clark Kent.
Right.
Because if you want to do...
The Arkham games focus entirely on Batman, but Clark Kent is a really important feature of Superman, of the Superman mythos. It's more important than to Superman, I'd say it's more important than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, because you don't really get a lot of Batman stories that focus on Bruce Wayne. Like, he's there, but he's normally just there to, oh, I'm here to find a lead, and then you get to the Batman stuff. Like, he never really solves a problem as Bruce Wayne, whereas Clark Kent can solve problems without being Superman. Like I said, if you want to do the first appearances, what could be really cool is, even if you want to branch out and say this is a Telltale style game, is you can have Clark meet the villains before he fights them with Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe each of them could be different one of his human interest stories.
Right.
Like, he interviews Metallo and he's like, oh, he's an ex-military, John Corbin. He's had surgery, and they're going, I hope it goes well because he seemed troubled, but I think with help he could be better. And then instantly you get the emotional resonance, and you also get to the core of the character that Superman is a guy, like Batman will punch out Two-Face and be like, Harvey used to be my friend, but then he'll fight the Mad Hatter and be like, I don't care. Superman cares about everyone. Mm-hmm. Superman cares about Lex. Like, Superman even like, this is like, Superman will reach out a hand to like Darkseid if the situation required it. Like, he's the guy who just cares for everyone, but he's not a fool.
Right.
So you need getting that into a video game will also make a nice separation, because if you're gonna go make people see Superman as the character as he needs to be written, you need to get a strong writer behind it, like Paul Dini for Arkham. I don't know, Mark Waid or Grant Morrison. They've done video games before. You can get them to write the plotline, and you can make sure that they also get the moments where side missions, maybe where you have to help like a little girl find her cat. You need to have the superheroics be a focus, but you also need to have, at the end of the day, he's not fighting robots all the time. Most of the time, Superman's just helping people out with their day-to-day lives, or Clark Kent's interviewing people and trying to, like, he sees a homeless guy on the street, he goes up to him, he gets him a sandwich, he like talks to him, he asks what his story is, etc., etc. Like, stuff like that goes a long way to making people care about Superman more than, oh, he's just invincible.
Like, personally, I think that would be easier, not necessarily easier, but better for a Telltale game. These Telltale games,
yeah, and then you can also add your own take. Yeah,
exactly.
But also, I feel like even with these AAA games, you don't want to lose the core of the character underneath the spectacle.
Of course not.
But then again, at the same time, we're not making a movie here; we're making a video game, and we want it to be fun first and foremost.
It still needs to be completely entertaining.
Yeah,
you can have dull moments in a movie, that's what they are. You need character moments in movies, but for a video game, you have to stay entertained and immersed into it the entire time.
You need to feel like you're in control.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I feel like with how we've got now, with progression of cutscenes and the amount of technology we can get, if you look at stuff like Last of Us or Uncharted, and they're very, very story-driven, get almost movies.
Right. You could incorporate the Telltale feature, where you choose what you say and take the path you take into a lot of the game, into the cinematics. I don't think that would be difficult at all.
But at the same time,
your character moments in those little cinematics.
Yeah, but at the same time, part of me, which feels iffy on a Telltale Superman game, is unlike Batman, where we've played through a great game series, a great game franchise, where we've got to play as Batman being Batman. Like, the whole point of Arkham Knight was, like, be the Batman. And you were Batman who was perfectly in character, voiced by Kevin Conroy, who was just Batman. There was no argument in it. That was the point.
Yeah.
So when we got to Telltale, being able to make your own Batman was like a novelty, and it's like, oh, I get to do my own take and maybe be a bit more Frank Miller, maybe a bit more Adam West, something like that. Superman, I feel, needs to have that first definitive, you don't get to make the choice here, this is just Superman. Like, you're playing a Superman game, so you should be playing as Superman. Right. Not your version of Superman. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to see a decision where you decide not to feed the homeless in a Superman.
Yeah. Put that one on the back of the box. Do not feed the homeless.
I mean, not the homeless situation. But if you want to take out someone with a little bit less force using Batman, you can. If you want to be really aggressive and be like a Dark Knight, Ben Affleck's Batman, you can. But I don't think Superman should have that option. I don't think you should crush someone's skull as Superman or just slap them away.
Yeah, because we've already had, like you say, Injustice. We've seen evil Superman who's doing that.
We are tired of...
Yeah, we don't want that anymore.
Anyone important is listening. We are tired of evil Superman.
But Derek, what if we make him possessed by X, Y, or Z?
Oh, how many times have we seen this in 2 and in Rebirth? In Rebirth we've seen Superman go evil maybe 3 times, and just recently in Metal we saw another evil version of Superman.
We saw like hundreds of evil, like skeleton Supermans. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't read that. Ignore what we've said. Moving on.
Superman, who's Superman?
What? This is a Batman podcast. I don't know what you're talking about.
World's finest. No.
The Dark Knights.
Exactly.
Copyright. I guess we've gone through loads of topics here. We've talked about our different gameplay styles. In summation, I guess, how would you, if you had to pick 5 elements, and you get to write a letter to Rocksteady, and they ask for 5 elements for your feedback for a Superman game, what would they be? And I'll do this as well, so you can take time to think about it, because I want people to comment them as well in below, because I'm curious about people's thoughts.
First and foremost, Superman. And I don't mean the Man of Steel. I don't mean the Son of Krypton. I don't mean this god among men. I mean Superman. I mean his moralities and his good nature. The Superman that was raised by Martha and Jonathan Kent. I want the general audience to know that Superman isn't the Injustice that we know. He isn't the Neck Snapper and Man of Steel that we know. And the morally burdened Superman of Batman v Superman that we've been accustomed to nowadays. I want to bring back comic book Superman. So that's number 1. His personality. His true personality. Number 2 is the opposite of that. His power set. I want to feel like the last son of Krypton. I want to feel like the Man of Steel. I want to fly around Metropolis and use my laser vision and my super strength and my invulnerability. Number 3, a new origin. A new canon. Something fresh. Something exciting. I don't think we've really seen that in a while. I think the last time we saw a new take on Superman that wasn't Injustice and wasn't evil Superman was Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I want to see his supporting cast, and I want to see them a little bit more diverse in nature. This is 2017. Not everyone is white.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah. And lastly, the villains. The villains are just as important as the heroes, and I don't want to see them brushed by. I don't want to see Parasite used for one mission where you beat him up and that's it. I really want to get to know Parasite and really want to get to know Metallo. These missions need to have specific ways to defeat specific villains. You can't punch Parasite. He absorbs the kinetic energy. So you need to figure out a new strategy. You can't get too close to Metallo. He has kryptonite. Figure out a new strategy. It has to be different. Batman games, they're not too different in nature. You punch the bad guys and you throw a battering at them. What do you do? You win the game.
Yeah, and that's also an advantage Superman would have from a gameplay developer standpoint. Is all of Batman's villains are really hard to make boss fights out of. Like, you get Mr. Freeze, you get Grundy, and you can get really good fights out of them. But a lot of Batman's villains he can just beat in one-on-one fights. Superman is a lot more diverse, like you were saying with Parasite, is like, oh no, do I have to hit him from afar with debris, or etc, etc. There's a lot more leeway room for creative interpretation there.
Definitely. So that's the 5 things I need the most in a Superman game.
Yeah, I agree with all those. Those were brilliant. I guess for mine then, I try and not just sound what you said then, just the entire time. I guess number 1 then, I guess we'll just make a combined 10. So number 1, I want to feel the brains behind the brawn. I don't want Superman just to be the public perception strong guy who's nice. I want people to remember that he has a Kryptonian brain, and although he isn't gonna be like a Lex Luthor level intelligence, or even like he doesn't plan things out ahead like Batman, on the fly when making super fast decisions, his brain goes faster than we can comprehend. So you should be able to, as the player, be able to see multiple disasters happening at once and be able to tackle each and individual one at super speed. Like maybe implant a slow down time feature or something just for his perception. Because you should be able to... A lot of people don't understand one of the things that attracts me to the character a lot, is similar to Daredevil, is his senses are what's amazingly interesting. Like, he can smell like the flowers in Canada. Like, it's just like insane what he can do. And of course you can't do all of that in gameplay, but you should be able to give the player some of that. You should be able to feel, as Superman you can hear like people screaming on the other side of the world, and you can go fly and help them. So yeah, definitely I want people to get his brain and his senses down pat. For second, I guess I kind of want to have someone steering the wheel. I want to have a Paul Dini type figure. I want a strong writer from the comics who knows the character, knows the rogues gallery, knows the supporting cast, and can live up to the expectations you set in your rules, because we want these characters represented well and we want the people to understand them. But we'll also we want people to be able to have a new take, and I think a lot of writers could have some fun with getting to play in a video game sandbox and give their own take on the characters. So yeah, so a Grant Morrison figure or a Mark Waid, or just someone from the comics, apart from Dan Jurgens. And next up, I think for number 3, I guess I want a kind of stylized look. Like, I want a visual design. I want a metropolis that feels lived in. Like, I want a metropolis that feels alive. I want to be able to go down to the street and see people say, "Hey, Superman!" I want to be able to talk to the people on the civilians, because that was a big problem with Superman Returns. Is the city was just barren, and a lot of the Arkham games, like the cities are always evacuated, and I don't like that. I get for Batman, because Batman can't exactly go down and talk to the civilians because he's supposed to be a mysterious character of the night. But Superman is the kind of guy who will fly down and say hi. Like, and I want to be able to do that. Obviously they'll have to be. It's easy enough to just disable powers when you're looking at civilians and stuff, just so you don't people get the urge to kill them. But I want to be able to do like in Spider-Man 2, where you would fly down and talk to a civilian who asked for help, and you get like a little mini mission, like stop a car from being stolen, stuff like that. I want to be able to feel
catch a balloon.
Yeah. Catch a balloon makes way more sense for Superman than Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is hated by everyone. They think he probably stole the balloon.
Or the classic rescue kitty out of the tree.
Yeah, classic, like definitive moments like that. And then for 4, haha, see what I did there. I wanna add the son of Jor-El is a scientist with a desire for exploration. Superman's cool isn't Batman's cool. Batman's cool is the suave James Bond cool. Superman's cool is the adventure, like the Star Wars. I want to be able to visit the DC universe. I want to see, like, I want to obviously not make it super giant because obviously with like the budget and the things. But this is DC's flagship character with, if we go with Rocksteady, a very well-known developer team. And with the technology we've seen with like in No Man's Sky and a lot of the new games coming out, we have the technology now to be able to make these vast universes to explore. I want to be able to travel to different planets with Superman. I want to be able to start at the ground of the Daily Planet, fly up and keep going until I get to space, and then go to Apocalypse. Like, of course, you could implement subtle cutscenes in there, like where loading times can happen, where he's like flying at light speed. But I want to be able to go beyond the scope of other superhero games where you're just in a city. Because you're Superman, you should be able to go save people all around the world and then beyond. That's my biggest, like, if I had infinite resources, this is what I want to see. So that can be scaled back, but I think as long as there's some elements of that exploration, of that sense of adventure, being able to see different worlds, different people, different cultures. Because Superman's so inclusive as a character, like he cares for all life. You should be able to see what you're fighting for. And I guess number 5. Number 5 should be Clark Kent, first and foremost. But not Clark Kent as in Clark Kent's the real identity, Superman's like a late. I want about both of them should have equal. Obviously, you're going to be playing as Superman more, but both of them, story-wise, should have equal importance. Like, I want to be able to see, after he beats Metallo, he can't take out Lex in a punch because he can't connect it to Lex. But Clark Kent can write an expose about it, and then Lex can go after Clark Kent. I want Clark Kent to be able to, even if he's not playable, I want him story-wise to be impacting the plot. I want him to be important. But at the same time, I don't want him to just be Superman in a suit. I want to be able to have the charm and the fun of... Because the Arkham games, their tone with Rocksteady is very... There's not a lot of... There's humor in there, but it's very dark humor. It's very serious take which fits the character. But for Superman, sure, you need your moments of drama. You need your characters, you need your stakes, you need Lex to seem like a real bastard. You want the villains to seem evil, and you want the heroes to seem big and large in life. But you also have a character who's flying around in red and blue with a smile on his face. So you need to have that fun as Superman. It shouldn't be a chore to be Superman. You should be having the time of your life. You should be like seeing Jim go to Perry and getting yelled at, and seeing Clark do like a wink at the camera or something. Like, I just want to have fun with this game, and I think that's something that will get the spirit of the character made by 2 young Jewish boys all those decades ago. So yeah, I think that really sums it up. I can't thank you enough again for coming on to do this with me again, Dereck, because like you've given me a lot of points to think about, and I hope people have enjoyed what they've said. Do you have anything quick you want to close off on?
This is no burden at all, man. I love this, talking about Superman and superheroes. This is what we do. This is what we love to do, and we can talk about it with people that we know and love.
Always. So again, I'd like to thank you all for listening. We have been the world's finest. I'm Alfie.
And I'm Dereck.
And thank you again.